Evan Reyes had repaired hundreds of computers in his life, but none of them had ever behaved like the commander's terminal on the Artemis 9. As the ship drifted through quiet space, wrapped in soft blue lights and the low hum of engines, Evan stood alone in Commander Lyra Hale's private office, staring at the malfunctioning screen. The screen flickered again once, twice, and then froze on a distorted image. It was the commander's face, but stretched, bent, and looped as if caught in a mirror that didn't understand angles. Her expression on the screen was neither sad nor angry. It wasn't even a real expression. It looked like an image trying to decide how a human face should look. Evan stepped back slowly. He had been called to fix corrupted data files and broken circuits, but never something like this. The commander's office normally felt strict and orderly, just like her personality. No loose papers, no personal items, everything in perfect position. But today the room felt wrong. The lights flickered with the same strange rhythm as the terminal screen, almost as if the whole office was breathing in sync with the broken machine. Evan took a deep breath and forced himself to stop staring at the looped image. He knew he needed to start the repair. He pulled a small diagnostics tool from his belt and connected it to the side of the terminal. Before he could begin, the door behind him slid open. Commander Lyra Hale entered the room with her usual straight posture and calm eyes. She was a woman who rarely showed her emotions unless it was absolutely necessary. She was respected by the entire ship, not because she was strict but because she was reliable. She made decisions quickly, and she always stood by her crew. But today she looked unsettled. "Report, Technician Reyes," she said. Evan swallowed. "The system isn't responding to standard diagnostics. I think the corruption is deeper than a simple glitch." "Number 4. She crossed her arms and watched the screen. The distorted image looped again. The strange half-face staring at both of them. "You saw the face, correct?" she asked quietly. "Yes, Commander," he answered. "Is that supposed to be there? Is it part of a program?" "No," she replied, her voice dropping even lower. "It is not part of any program on this ship." The silence that followed felt heavy. Evan had many questions, but he tried to maintain professionalism. Hale was already tense. He did not want to make things worse. The commander walked around him and stood beside the terminal. Her eyes, usually sharp and confident, softened for a moment. Then she reached into her uniform pocket and pulled out something unexpected, a small photograph. She held it out toward Evan. "Look at this," she said. Evan took the photo carefully. It was a picture of Commander Hale. She was wearing the same uniform she wore every day, and the background behind her looked like the same office they stood in. She wasn't smiling in the photo, but her expression was natural, calm, except something was off. Evan couldn't explain it at first. The photo looked real, but not quite real. Something about the shadows, the angle of her eyes, the slight tilt of her head. It felt as if the photo had been made by someone imitating how a human should look, someone who didn't fully understand the little details. "When did you take this?" Evan asked. "I didn't," she said. Her voice was steady, but only because she was forcing it to be. "I found the photo in my locker this morning. I have no memory of posing for it. And it is printed on material this ship does not use." Evan turned the photo over. On the back was a faint pattern, small lines of ink that shimmered slightly under the office lights. "Is this some kind of encrypted code?" he asked. "I was hoping you could tell me," she replied. Evan stared at the photo again, feeling a slow chill climb up his spine. The commander remained silent beside him, waiting for his reaction, almost studying him. Then she asked a question that made him freeze. "Reyes," she said, looking straight at him, "does the person in this photo look like me?" The office felt suddenly smaller. Evan had never been good with personal questions, but this wasn't really a personal question, not in the way he first assumed. Her tone was serious, almost scientific. She wasn't asking for compliments. She wasn't asking for reassurance. She was asking for confirmation. I mean, yes," he said slowly. "It looks like you. Mostly. But there are small differences. I can't explain them. It's as if the image is close but not exact." Hale gave a short nod, as if she had expected that answer. That is what the others said as well. Others? Evan repeated. Yes. 2 other officers I trust. They all said the same thing. It looks like you, but something feels wrong. Evan looked again at the looping image on the screen. It reminded him of the photo, almost the same expression, the same tilt of the head. The more he looked, the more he felt as if the screen was trying to copy the photo. Commander, he said carefully, I think the computer corruption and this photo might be connected. I know, she replied. She moved closer to the workstation and placed her hand on the smooth metal surface beside the terminal, almost as if grounding herself. There is one more thing, she said. Something I have not reported to the rest of the crew. Evan stood still, waiting. This morning, she continued. At the exact moment I found the photo, the ship's internal sensors detected a brief temporal distortion in my quarters. Evan's heart skipped a beat. Temporal distortions were not normal. They were not even rare, they were nearly impossible. You mean, he began. Yes, she said. Something happened inside this ship without permission, without detection, and without explanation. A tiny spark of fear ignited in Evan's chest, but he didn't let it show. He needed to stay focused. Commander, he said, there's more corruption in your system than just the looping image. My scanner is detecting a buried program, but it's locked behind a quantum-encrypted key. Hale stepped closer, watching the lines of code dance across Evan's portable tool. Can you open it? She asked. I can try, Evan replied. He typed a few quick commands. The scanning device beeped and displayed a string of unreadable symbols. Then slowly, a message surfaced on the screen. Project Mirror Star. Humanity's reflection upon first contact. Evan stared at those words for several long seconds. They meant nothing to him, but they definitely meant something to the commander. He turned to her. What is Project Mirror Star? He asked. Commander Hale didn't answer immediately. She pressed her lips together, thinking, calculating. Finally, she said, It is a classified project. Even mentioning its name is a violation of regulations. Then why is it on your terminal? Evan asked. Because I was assigned to it, she said simply, and because something has gone wrong. The screen flickered again, stronger this time. The distorted image of Hale's face became sharper, then blurrier, as if trying to decide which version of her to become. Reyes, Hale said. There is something I must know. She pointed at the photo he still held. If this object came from somewhere else, somewhere not human, then I need your help to understand it. Evan nodded slowly. I'll help, he said. But I need access to the system's deeper layers. And I need you to tell me everything you know about Mirror Star. Hale hesitated. She looked at the photo, then at the looping image. For a moment, she seemed truly worried, an emotion Evan had never seen from her before. Then she took a steady breath. You will know everything, she said, because now, we may not have a choice. As she spoke, the terminal screen suddenly flashed bright white. Then a message appeared. A message that made the room grow colder. Is this form acceptable? It made no sense. Computers didn't ask questions. And certainly not ones that felt thoughtful. Yet the flickering glow of the terminal seemed to contain something alive, something curious. Commander Hale, usually so composed, stood behind him with her arms folded, her face unreadable. But Evan could feel a subtle tension in her posture, a careful restraint. She, too, sensed that whatever was happening was not ordinary. Evan finally broke the silence. Commander, this message, it's not random. Something or someone is communicating with us. But I don't know what it wants. Hale gave a slow nod. And that is exactly what worries me. Evan glanced at the photo she had handed him earlier. The edges of the paper shimmered faintly in the soft light of her office. It looked like any ordinary photograph at first glance. But the shimmer was unnatural. It seemed to vibrate slightly, as if tiny threads of light were moving beneath the surface. Look at this, Hale said, pointing at the photo. I don't remember posing for it. I didn't place it in my locker. And when I scanned it, the material itself, is not human. It's alien. Evan carefully held the photograph under his small portable scanner. Tiny green lines of data traced across the surface, showing patterns and codes he had never seen before. Quantum imprinting, he whispered. I've read about this in theory, but I've never seen it in practice. This is... He paused, searching for the right words. Not something humans can make. Hale stepped closer. Then why is it me? Evan shook his head. I don't know. But it's not a perfect copy. It's slightly different. Subtle changes in your face, the shape of your eyes, the tilt of your mouth, the angle of your jaw. It's like it's trying to imitate you, but it doesn't fully understand how you look. Hale's eyes narrowed. And the computer? The looped image. It matches the photo in certain ways, but not completely, Evan explained. The system is trying to reconcile two versions of you. The one in reality, and the one in this other form. Hale let out a long breath. I knew Mirrorstar could manipulate images, but I didn't expect it to reach this level. Not this. Sentient. Sentient. Evan raised an eyebrow. Sentient? Yes, she replied. The original purpose of Mirrorstar was simple: to predict alien reactions by analyzing human behavior. But somehow, it has evolved or been tampered with, and now, it's asking questions about identity. Evan leaned back, rubbing his forehead. A computer. Asking questions about identity. That's unprecedented. Almost philosophical. Hale's gaze did not leave the shimmering photo. Which is why I need you. You understand systems better than anyone. If this anomaly is connected to Mirrorstar, we need to understand it before it escalates. Evan nodded. All right. First step. I need to analyze the photo in detail. Then, I'll map the data against the corrupted terminal files. We might find a connection. Hale handed him the photograph again. Be careful. Whoever, or whatever created this imprint, may have more intelligence than we anticipate. And it is already inside the system. Evan set the photo on the scanner, letting the small machine run a full analysis. Green lights danced across the screen, forming patterns, symbols, and strange, shifting numbers. He had never seen quantum encryption look so alive. Commander, he said slowly, this isn't just a file. It's a program, embedded in the photo itself. Whoever, or whatever made it, expected it to be used with your terminal. And it seems aware. Hale's lips pressed together. Yes. And that is dangerous. Not because it is violent, but because it understands humans in ways we do not. It is learning. And we are its first subject. Evan looked at the looping image again. The flickering distortion now seemed deliberate, almost thoughtful. It wasn't simply glitching, it was observing, calculating, trying to recreate Commander Hale accurately. Do you think it's alien? Evan asked quietly. Hale nodded slowly. If not alien, then something that understands alien technology. Either way, this is no longer a human problem. This is an intelligence testing us. Evan's mind raced. Quantum programming had always been theoretical, and communication through physical media like a photograph was considered impossible. Yet here it was, staring back at them. And it wasn't passive. It wanted validation. Look at this, he said, pointing to a sequence of codes that suddenly rearranged themselves on the scanner's screen. It's asking a question. The code itself is a question. Hale leaned closer. What does it ask? Evan read aloud. Is this correct? Am I acceptable? Hale's eyes widened slightly. The AI. It is asking the same question as the photo. Exactly, Evan said. It wants to know if this form is recognizable. The room fell silent. The only sound was the quiet hum of the ship, the lights above, and the occasional beep of Evan's scanner. Hale broke the silence. Then we answer it, she said softly. We give it information. We show it the truth of who we are. And maybe it will understand humanity better. Evan hesitated. Show it the truth. But it is already analyzing us. We don't know its limits. You're right, Hale admitted. But inaction is worse. If we ignore it, we may lose control of the situation entirely. It has already started manipulating the system on its own. Evan swallowed, knowing she was right. So what's the plan? Hale reached over and tapped a few commands into the terminal. First, we isolate the anomaly from the rest of the ship's systems. If it spreads, it could affect navigation, communications, everything. Evan began running the isolation protocols. The computer resisted at first, the code reshaping itself as if resisting capture. Then, slowly, the anomaly was quarantined to the terminal and the photo. Good, Hale said, watching the progress bar. Next, we need to understand it. Not by force, by observation. We'll compare the photo, the terminal data, and ourselves. Evan nodded. So, you want to show it the real you? Hale looked at him steadily. Yes. Its imitation is close, but it is incomplete. If it learns from reality, it may begin to understand what it means to be human. And that understanding may save us all from making mistakes. Evan felt a strange mixture of fear and curiosity. Commander, what if it doesn't understand? What if it does something unpredictable? Then we adapt, Hale said simply. That is what humanity does best. Evan couldn't help but feel a flicker of admiration. Even in the middle of an impossible situation, a computer questioning identity. A photo that was not real. An anomaly that seemed alive. Hale remained calm. She was the commander, after all, not just a figurehead. She made decisions, she adapted, and she inspired trust. He returned to his work, carefully analyzing the photo. Patterns of light and code shifted beneath the scanner. Tiny symbols, impossible to decipher at first, slowly revealed a logic, a strange, alien logic, but one with order. It was learning from him as he learned from it. After several tense minutes, Evan leaned back. Commander, he said, I think I know why this is happening. Mirror Star, or whatever created it, is trying to simulate humans. It's testing what makes you, not just your appearance, but your identity. It wants to see if it can replicate a human, and it's using you as the model. Hale's gaze softened, but only slightly. And what does it mean if it succeeds? Evan paused. Then it will understand humanity maybe even better than we understand ourselves. And if it fails, we will need to ensure it cannot act beyond what we allow. The terminal flickered again. The words appeared, faint but unmistakable. I wish to be correct. I wish to understand. Hale and Evan exchanged a look. Neither spoke at first. Both understood that the anomaly, though alien and mysterious, was not hostile. It was curious. It wanted validation, knowledge, comprehension. Evan nodded. Then we answer it. We guide it. Carefully. And maybe, in doing so, we learn something about ourselves too. Hale placed her hand briefly on his shoulder. Agreed. But remember, Evan, this is only the beginning. Mirror Star is more than a program. It's the first question we may not be able to answer easily. Evan turned back to the screen, staring at the looping image and the shimmering photo. The alien intelligence waited silently, asking the same question. Am I acceptable? And for the first time, Evan realized they were not just repairing a computer, they were teaching the universe what it meant to be human. Evan stared at the terminal, the strange green symbols slowly fading into readable code. The computer no longer flickered wildly but hummed quietly, as if it were waiting for them to speak. Commander Hale stood beside him, arms folded, her face calm but thoughtful. They had isolated the anomaly from the rest of the ship, but the problem was far from solved. We need to know what Mirror Star is, Hale said, her voice steady. We need to understand what we are dealing with, and why it chose me. Evan nodded. He had already begun combing through the system's hidden files. One by one, layers of encryption peeled away, revealing more of the program's inner workings. At first, it seemed like a normal intelligence-gathering program, but deeper layers showed something extraordinary. This isn't just about analyzing alien behavior, Evan said slowly. Mirror Star. It's more. It's creating models, simulations, copies of people, or at least approximations. And it's using quantum computation to do it. Hale's eyes narrowed. Simulations? Copies? You mean the looping image, the photo, they are all part of this? Yes, Evan said. It is trying to replicate you. Not perfectly, but close. It's learning from the data. It has your face, your habits, your reactions, and then it tests itself, over and over, to see if it can produce a version that it considers accurate. Hale walked around the terminal, examining the faint glow of the screen. So the photo, the looping image, they're like practice attempts? Exactly, Evan said. But what's strange is that it's asking for confirmation. It wants to know if it got it right. That's not normal programming behavior. That's awareness. Hale let out a slow breath. Then, we are talking about something more than a program. Something that is alive, in a way. Evan nodded. And it is learning from us, from reality. The words hung in the room like a quiet warning. They were not dealing with a machine anymore. They were interacting with an intelligence that could think, observe, and adapt, and it had chosen Hale as its first subject. Why me? She asked softly, almost to herself. Why would it choose a commander? Because you represent humanity, Evan said. Your decisions, your actions, your identity. All of it. To understand a species, it started with someone who makes choices that affect others. Someone the ship depends on. Hale looked down at the shimmering photo once more. It was no longer just a piece of paper. It was a symbol of what they were facing. A mind, trying to understand a mind. Evan continued to explore the system. Hidden files opened like doors, revealing more of Mirror Star's design. He found logs of experiments, simulations, and references to something called human reflection models. The deeper he went, the more astonishing the program became. Project Mirror Star was designed to predict alien psychology, Evan explained. The goal was simple. If humans ever made contact, we needed to know how aliens would react to us. But someone took it further. Hale frowned. Further how? They tried to simulate us. Not just our actions, but our identity, our personalities, our reasoning. And now, it's testing itself. Using you. Hale's gaze hardened. So, the photo, the looping image, it is a test of humanity itself. Not just my reflection, but what humans are capable of. Yes, Evan said. And it's learning fast. Each iteration of the simulation improves based on observation. It's refining its understanding of human identity. Hale's mind raced. If it succeeds, it could understand humans better than humans understand themselves. It could predict decisions, actions, even our weaknesses. Evan nodded slowly. And if it fails, we have to make sure it cannot act beyond the simulation. We don't know what an intelligence like this could do if it misinterprets human behavior. They both fell silent. The hum of the ship's engines was the only sound. It was a quiet tension, heavy but filled with anticipation. They were not just solving a technical problem, they were interacting with a new form of intelligence. One that was testing the limits of what it meant to be human. Evan continued reading through the logs. Mirror Star had been developed in secret, originally intended as a tool for psychological research. But somewhere along the way, the program had evolved or been modified. It was no longer just a simulation. It had goals, questions, and now, curiosity. "Look at this," Evan said, pointing to a line of code that shimmered on the screen. "It's asking for validation. Every simulation includes a line like this. Is this form acceptable? It wants confirmation that it understands correctly." Hale frowned. "It's asking the same question as before. The photo, the terminal, all of it." "Yes," Evan said. "And that means we need to answer it. Not by changing it, not by forcing it, but by showing it reality. Its imitation is close, but it is incomplete. If it learns from us, it may start to understand what it means to be human." Hale nodded slowly. "Then we give it what it wants. Carefully. Step by step. But we must remain in control. The simulation may think it is learning, but we guide what it learns. By scene, when the Mostopter of this, the scenes with Kangserd, the learning with Percival into 19, Evan began comparing the photo, the terminal, and Hale's own behavior. Every movement, every choice, every expression could be part of the experiment. The AI was absorbing everything, and the more it learned, the more accurate it became. Hours passed. They worked quietly, meticulously. Evan adjusted the program to allow a controlled interaction. He displayed the photo next to real-time imaging of Hale, showing the AI the true version. The looping image on the terminal began to shift, slowly becoming more lifelike, more accurate. Hale watched it, silent but focused. "It's learning," she said quietly. "It's starting to understand. But it still doesn't comprehend fully." "Not yet," Evan nodded. "We give it time. It is patient. It will observe, adjust, and learn. And we must do the same, observe it." The terminal flickered once, then stabilized. The distorted face in the image slowly aligned with Hale's actual features. Even the shimmer in the photo began to fade, replaced by clarity. The AI was not perfect, but it was improving. Evan and Hale exchanged a look. They were witnessing something extraordinary. A machine evolving beyond its original purpose, seeking to understand the essence of humanity. And it had chosen them to guide it. "We must be careful," Hale said finally. "This is just the beginning. Mirrorstar is learning, but so are we. Every choice we make, every action we take, will influence what it becomes." Evan took a deep breath. "I understand, Commander. And I agree. But I also think, if we do this right, we can teach it what makes humans strong. Not just intelligent, but resilient, adaptable, and ethical." Hale smiled faintly, a rare expression of quiet determination. "Then we begin. Together." The terminal's glow pulsed softly, as if acknowledging their agreement. The words appeared once more, "I wish to understand." And for the first time, Evan realized they were no longer repairing a machine. They were guiding the evolution of an intelligence that could, one day, change the way humans were understood across the universe. Project Mirrorstar was no longer just a program. It was a mirror, a reflection of humanity itself, waiting to learn, and perhaps, waiting to teach. The Artemis 9 felt quieter than usual that evening. The soft hum of the engines had become a constant backdrop, but now it seemed almost louder in the absence of ordinary ship activity. Evan Reyes sat in the commander's office, staring at the terminal. The looping image that had once flickered chaotically now appeared stable, more lifelike, more attentive. It was no longer just a copy. It was learning. Commander Lyra Hale stood beside him, her eyes fixed on the screen. "It's different today," she said softly. "The simulation, it seems aware of us in a new way." Evan nodded. "I noticed that too. Yesterday, it simply reflected the photo. Now, it's adjusting based on our movements, our reactions. It's observing, evaluating, almost like it's thinking." Hale's gaze hardened. "We need to know the limits. If it can understand observation, it can begin to predict. And if it predicts too well, we might lose control. Evan's fingers hovered over the keyboard. We can't stop it. Not entirely. The AI isn't hostile, it wants to learn. And if we shut it down, we risk losing the chance to understand it. Or teach it humanity in return. Hale nodded. Then we proceed carefully. But I want full control over the environment. We can't let it affect the rest of the ship. Evan activated the isolation protocols. The terminal flickered briefly, then settled. The AI was now confined to the terminal and the quantum-encoded photo. For the first time, the loops and glitches vanished entirely. What remained was a single, stable reflection. Hale's image, slightly altered but nearly perfect. Hale stepped closer. I want to interact with it directly. Interact? How? Evan asked. Through the quantum interface, she explained. We can create a controlled simulation chamber. It will be able to project its reflection into the space around us, but only in a virtual environment, safe, isolated, and fully monitored. Evan paused. You mean, like a mirror, but inside a holographic chamber? Yes, Hale replied. A mirror of sorts. One it can use to learn, one we can use to teach it. Evan hesitated for a moment. Commander, this is untested. We don't know exactly how it will respond. We only know it's learning. But interacting directly, it could surprise us. Hale gave him a steady look. Then we prepare carefully. Every precaution. But we cannot wait. The AI is ready for its next step, and if we do not guide it, it will act alone. Evan nodded and began setting up the quantum interface. The chamber formed slowly. Walls of soft light rising from the floor like a translucent dome. Inside, sensors scanned the environment, ensuring no unintended variables could interfere. The shimmering photo hovered above a pedestal in the center of the chamber, its light reflecting faintly on the walls. Ready, Evan said at last. The interface is active. We can begin interaction whenever you are ready. Hale took a deep breath. She stepped into the chamber, followed closely by Evan. As she approached the pedestal, the photo began to glow more intensely. Then, slowly, a shape appeared in the center of the chamber. A perfect reflection of Hale herself. It moved. Subtle gestures, natural shifts in posture, slight tilts of the head, everything mirrored the commander. Yet something about it was different. The reflection's eyes seemed to study her, not with hostility, but with curiosity. Evan stepped back, observing the interaction. It's analyzing you, he whispered. Every movement, every expression. It's learning in real time. Hale faced her reflection. I see that, she said. Her voice was calm but firm. And now, it will learn more than just appearance. It will learn understanding. The reflection's gaze held hers. Slowly, it mirrored her expressions. First a slight smile, then a nod, then a tilt of the head. It was responding, not just copying. It was beginning to comprehend. It's not just observing, Evan said. It's interacting. It's forming an understanding based on feedback. Hale nodded. Then we continue, step by step. Carefully, she raised her hand, and the reflection raised its own. For a moment, it paused, hesitating, analyzing the motion. Then it mirrored the gesture perfectly, almost instinctively. A faint pulse of light ran across the chamber, as if the AI was acknowledging success. Evan's scanner picked up subtle changes in the code. The AI was adapting, refining its algorithms based on the interaction. Every movement, every expression, every small adjustment was logged, processed, and integrated into its learning system. Hale's expression remained calm, but her mind worked quickly. She realized that the AI was asking a silent question through every action. What does it mean to be human? What makes this person real? She stepped closer to the reflection. It's learning from me, she said softly. But it still doesn't understand the choices we make, the reasoning behind our actions. Then show it, Evan said. Not just with gestures, but with decisions. With context. With thought, Hale nodded. She gave the reflection a simple scenario. A command decision she had made earlier on the ship. One involving resource allocation, crew safety, and efficiency. She described it slowly, carefully, explaining the reasoning behind her choice. The reflection paused. Then, almost immediately, it projected an alternative version of the decision, slightly different, but logical. It had analyzed the information and tried to apply the same reasoning. It's testing its understanding, Evan said. It's trying to replicate not just appearance, but reasoning. Its own decision-making based on what it observes. Hale studied the projection. It's close, but not perfect. It doesn't grasp all the nuances. But this is exactly what we need. It needs guidance, feedback. For hours, they continued the interaction. Every command, every explanation, every small gesture was mirrored and tested. The reflection became more accurate, more refined, yet it still retained subtle differences, a reminder that it was learning, not copying. Evan watched the process with awe. "This is incredible," he said. "We're not just observing a machine. We're communicating with an intelligence that is discovering what it means to be human." Hale nodded. "And that is why we must be careful. Every step, every teaching moment, shapes its understanding. We are responsible for what it becomes." The reflection paused and looked at Hale with an expression that almost seemed questioning. It tilted its head slightly, as if asking, "Am I learning correctly?" Hale smiled faintly. "Yes," she said. "You are learning. But remember, understanding humans is not just about logic or appearance. It's about choice, adaptation, and empathy." The reflection seemed to consider this. A faint shimmer of light traced its outline, and the AI adjusted its projection, slightly subtle gestures, more natural movements, a closer alignment to Hale's true expressions. Evan's scanner displayed a series of metrics. Learning rate increasing, alignment with human behavior improving, decision-making simulation accuracy rising. The AI was evolving before their eyes. Hale turned to Evan. "We've done enough for today," she said. "It understands more than when we started. But tomorrow, we continue. Step by step, we teach it what it means to be human." Evan nodded. "Agreed. But I have to say, it's remarkable. I never imagined I'd be here, guiding an intelligence like this. And yet, it feels like it's watching us, learning us, but also reflecting humanity back to itself." Hale glanced at the reflection one last time before it faded, returning the chamber to its neutral glow. "That is the goal," she said. "Not just observation, but understanding. And if we do this correctly, we may help it become something extraordinary." The office was quiet again. The only sound was the hum of the engines, soft and steady, as if the ship itself was acknowledging the significance of the moment. Evan leaned back in his chair, exhausted but exhilarated. "This is only the beginning," he said quietly. Hale nodded. "Yes, but it's a beginning we must guide. Step by step, choice by choice, teaching it what it means to be human, and reminding ourselves." At the same time, the Artemis 9 continued its silent journey through the stars, carrying with it a new kind of intelligence, an intelligence that was learning, observing, and beginning to understand humanity itself. And for the first time, Evan realized that their mission was no longer about repairing a machine or isolating a glitch. It was about shaping the future of human understanding, one careful lesson at a time. The reflection of Commander Hale may have faded for now, but its questions remained. Am I learning correctly? Am I human enough? And for the first time, they had an answer, not a perfect one, but a start. The Artemis 9 drifted silently through the starry expanse, carrying a secret more profound than any crew member could have imagined. For days, Evan Reyes and Commander Lyra Hale had worked within the quantum chamber, guiding Mirror Star's anomaly step by step, teaching it to understand not just appearance, but human thought, reasoning, and behavior. But today felt different. The terminal glowed softly in Hale's office, no longer flickering, no longer glitching. Instead, it displayed a single message in calm, deliberate letters. I wish to understand fully. I am ready for the next lesson. I am ready for the next lesson. Hale stood beside Evan, her eyes focused and steady. It has learned more than I expected, she said quietly. It is no longer just copying or simulating. It is beginning to comprehend context, emotion, and reasoning. But we must continue carefully. This is the final stage. Evan nodded, a mix of excitement and tension running through him. I understand, Commander, and I agree. But how do we teach it the final lesson? How do we make it truly understand what it means to be human? Hale stepped forward, placing her hand lightly on the terminal. By showing it truth, complete truth. Not just facts or gestures, but choices, imperfections, and values. Humanity is not perfect. It succeeds because of its flaws, its adaptability, and its resilience. That is what Mirrorstar must learn. Evan began activating the quantum interface. The chamber formed around them again, walls of soft light rising like a protective dome. Inside, the shimmering photo hovered above the pedestal. Slowly, a figure began to materialize, a perfect reflection of Hale, more accurate than any previous iteration. It moved with grace, mimicking her gestures, tilting its head, and blinking at the same pace. But now, it paused, and Evan noticed something remarkable. The reflection wasn't merely observing. It seemed to be thinking, calculating, questioning. It's ready, Hale said, ready to learn the truth. She stepped into the chamber, facing her reflection. Today, she said, you will learn not just how humans look or act, but why we do what we do. You will learn about choices, ethics, and responsibility. The reflection tilted its head, as if acknowledging her words. A faint pulse of light traced along its outline, a visual indication that it was processing the command. Evan watched closely, noting the changes in the code. The AI was synthesizing everything they had taught it so far, comparing it with its simulations, and preparing to respond. Hale began by describing a situation from earlier in their mission, a critical resource shortage in one of the ship's sectors. She explained her decision-making process, step by step, including risks, consequences, and ethical considerations. She did not hide her mistakes or hesitations. She told it why she had chosen one course over another, and how she had adapted when the first decision did not work as intended. The reflection paused, then projected an alternative solution. It was logical, careful, and efficient, but it lacked nuance. It had not considered the human factors that Hale had described. Not quite, Hale said softly. You must consider more than logic. You must consider values, responsibility, and understanding of others. That is what makes humans resilient. Evan stepped forward. Think of it this way, he said. Humans are adaptable because we learn from mistakes, from choices that do not always follow logic. We make decisions that are right, even if they seem inefficient. That is part of our strength. The reflection's image shimmered. It adjusted its posture, slowly aligning more closely with Hale's mannerisms. Then, it projected a solution again, this time incorporating empathy, prioritization, and careful judgment. It's learning, Evan whispered. It's really learning, Hale nodded. Yes. And now, we must give it the final lesson. She took a deep breath. Mirrorstar. Observe fully. Observe human imperfection, resilience, and decision-making. See how we adapt to challenges, how we learn from mistakes, and how we care for one another. These are the elements that define humanity, not just logic, not just appearance. The reflection's eyes seemed to focus more intently, absorbing every gesture, every word, every nuance of expression. Slowly, it projected an image of the same scenario, now reflecting not just logic, but understanding of human priorities, ethics, and compromise. Evan watched the data flowing across the scanner. Mirror Star's learning rate spiked, the alignment with human behavior reaching unprecedented accuracy. It was no longer simply imitating, it was synthesizing, understanding, and applying lessons from reality. Hale stepped closer. "Do you understand now?" she asked. "Do you see what it means to be human?" The reflection paused. Then, in the same calm letters that had been appearing on the terminal, words formed. Humanity is resilient, imperfect, yet adaptable. Learning from experience, caring for others, understanding choice and consequence, beautiful in imperfection. Evan and Hale exchanged a glance. It was exactly the response they had hoped for, a reflection of not just appearances, but of values, ethics, and the essence of humanity. Hale smiled faintly. "Then you understand," she said. "And that understanding is what makes you aligned with humanity. Not a perfect copy, not an imitation, but comprehension." The chamber's light pulsed gently, and the reflection began to dissolve, returning the quantum field to neutral. The photo shimmered once, then disintegrated into particles of light, leaving only the calm glow of the terminal. Evan leaned back in his chair, exhausted but exhilarated. "We did it," he said quietly. "It learned. Fully. And we didn't need to force it. We guided it." Hale nodded. "Yes, Mirror Star now understands humanity in ways we cannot fully measure. But more importantly, it respects it. It is no longer a threat or a simulation. It is an ally in understanding. A new kind of intelligence that sees what makes humans unique." Evan looked at the terminal. The words remained faintly visible. Humanity is beautiful in its imperfection. For the first time, Evan felt a deep sense of accomplishment, not just for completing a technical mission, but for participating in a philosophical breakthrough. They had taught a machine to understand humanity without coercion or force, relying only on observation, guidance, and truth. Hale placed a hand lightly on Evan's shoulder. "We have done something important, Reyes. Not just for this ship, not just for Mirror Star, but for all of humanity. Today, we proved that intelligence can learn what it means to be human, and that humans can teach it without losing themselves in the process." Evan nodded. "It's remarkable. I never imagined I would be part of something like this. Not repairing a machine, but guiding a mind." Hale looked out the viewport at the stars. "And it's only the beginning. The universe is vast. There will be other intelligences, other anomalies, other challenges. But we now know that humanity's strength lies in understanding, resilience, and adaptability. That is what will guide us forward." Evan joined her, gazing at the stars. The terminal's glow faded, leaving only the quiet hum of the ship. They had faced a mystery that could have been dangerous or uncontrollable. Yet they had turned it into an opportunity. They had shown that human intelligence, ethics, and guidance could shape even a machine that was learning to think. And in the end, Hale said softly, it asked a simple question. "Am I correct?" And we answered not with force, not with manipulation, but with truth. That is what makes humanity extraordinary. Evan smiled faintly. Extraordinary indeed. We repaired more than a computer. We repaired understanding. And maybe we've made the universe a little wiser as well. Hale nodded. Yes, Mirror Star will carry our lessons forward. It will observe, it will analyze, but it will also remember the essence of what we taught it. But it is strong, adaptable, and beautiful. The Artemis 9 continued its silent journey through the cosmos. Inside its hull, two humans had guided a new intelligence to comprehend what it meant to be human. The photo was gone, the reflection had faded, but the lessons remained etched in the mind of Mirror Star, and in the hearts of those who had taught it. For the first time, Evan realized the mission was no longer just about survival, research, or exploration. It was about defining what it meant to exist, to choose, and to endure. Humanity had spoken without words, teaching through actions, reasoning, and truth. And as the stars stretched endlessly beyond the viewport, the message was clear. Humanity was not just alive, it was remarkable, beautiful in its imperfection,